Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. India strongly rejected Pakistan's repeated references to Jammu and Kashmir at a United Nations debate on peacekeeping reforms, calling them unwarranted and reaffirming that the region was, is and will always be an integral part of India. Speaking at the Security Council, India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Parvataneini Harish, condemned Pakistan for attempting to divert attention from the core discussions on peacekeeping. He stated India is compelled to note that the delegate of Pakistan has yet again resorted to unwarranted remarks on Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Listen in to his remarks.
India is compelled to note that the delegate of Pakistan has yet again resorted to unwarranted remarks on the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Such repeated references neither validate their illegal claims nor justify their state-sponsored cross-border terrorism. Jammu and Kashmir was, is, and will always be an integral part of India. Pakistan continues to illegally occupy the territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which it must vacate. We would advise Pakistan not to try to divert the attention of this forum to drive their parochial and divisive agenda. India will refrain from exercising a more elaborate right of reply.
Ukraine and the United States are set to hold talks in Riyadh on Tuesday following a high-level meeting between Russia and the US on a proposed Black Sea ceasefire. The earlier discussions for perspective aimed at paving the way for broader peace negotiations were described as positive by Washington, with a joint statement expected soon. However, skepticism remains in Europe over Russian President Vladimir Putin's willingness to even compromise. Now, meanwhile, the war continues, with Ukraine reporting a Russian missile strike that wounded at least 88 people, while Moscow claims Ukraine targeted and killed 2 journalists and their driver. US officials are reacting with shock and, in many cases, horror to revelations in the Atlantic that top members, indeed, of the Trump 2.2 administration sent detailed operational plans and other highly sensitive classified information about US military strikes on Yemen to a group thread on a messaging app to which a reporter had accidentally, in fact, been added to. According to the Atlantic, a national security advisor, Mike Waltz, earlier this month convened a text conversation with top US officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and of course, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, to discuss strikes on Houthi militants in Yemen who had been threatening international shipping in the Red Sea. Now, Waltz, you see, apparently accidentally added Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg to this chain. The Trump administration acknowledged the messages sent over non-governmental encrypted chat app Signal seemed to be authentic without offering any explanation whatsoever why senior officials were discussing national defense information outside of approved classified government systems. Now, Senator Schumer has denounced this stunning breach of military intelligence. Listen in to what he had to say.
This is one of the most stunning breaches of military intelligence I have read about in a very, very long time. What we have here are senior U.S. leaders, including the Vice President and Secretary of Defense, having classified discussions of military action over an unsecure app. It's bad enough that a private citizen was added to this chain, but it's far worse that sensitive military information was exchanged on an unauthorized application, especially when that sensitive military information was so important. If these detailed exchanges about coordinating military operations fell into the hands of America's enemies, it could get people killed. It could severely harm our military. It would put America's national security in danger. This debacle requires a full investigation.
Turkish police have arrested more than 1,100 people who in fact have taken part in demonstrations after the Istanbul mayor's March 19th arrest. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Monday that protests over the jailing of Istanbul's mayor had become a movement of violence and that the main opposition party would be held accountable, in fact, for injured police officers and damage to property as well. The protests have been described as the country's most significant, in fact, since the Gezi Park protests of 2013. Faculty at Columbia University are protesting an agreement with the Trump administration that forces changes to its curriculum and student protest rules. Critics have said that the deal, made under the threat of losing billions in federal funding, undermines academic freedom. The university has also agreed to adopt a new definition of anti-Semitism and has expanded its Israel Studies program. Meanwhile, some faculty and free speech groups are also calling the agreement a disgrace, accusing Columbia of caving into political pressure. Listen in.
Columbia's shocking surrender to the Trump administration's threats and intimidation is a disgrace. Across our country, presidents, provosts, regents, and trustees are not yet standing up for higher ed. We're told that university administrations don't want to stick their necks out. We're told that governing boards don't want to take risks. Well, the risks of capitulating to Trump's vendetta are enormous. In fact, university presidents, provosts, trustees, and regents have the power and the resources to beat back the Trump cuts. The Trump administration is waging a war on college and a war on knowledge. We are here to display and demand courage and integrity in response. Trump's attacks on higher education will make going to college more expensive, more difficult, and less equitable. Targeting Columbia is intended to strike fear into the hearts of university students, teachers, and researchers everywhere. But we are unafraid. We are organizing. We are fighting back.
Employees at the U.S. Education Department have left their offices for the final time after President Donald Trump signaled an order to dismantle the agency. Supporters gathered outside to cheer the departing workers, while critics have warned of setbacks in American education. Now, the closure, a long-standing Republican goal, in fact, faces legal and logistical challenges as well, as Congress would need to fully approve the department's elimination. Here's more.
Yeah, what the Department of Education does, and by the way, it does not tell school districts what to teach. Education happens at the state and local level. They have complete control. What the department does is make sure everybody, every student, regardless of their race, whether their disability status, whether they're LGBTQ plus or not, gets treated fairly and has an opportunity to succeed. That's being lost out. And before we had federal involvement in education, students with disabilities basically got nothing. Students who were the wrong color got sent to the worst schools and were denied opportunities. This is the world they want to drag us back to.
Thousands of students took to the streets in Serbia protesting a real estate project financed by the firm of US President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Now, the development plan aims to turn a former army headquarters, bombed by NATO in 1999, into a luxury complex. Demonstrators in Belgrade are demanding the site's protected status be reinstated, calling the project a threat to historical preservation. The protest is also a part of a wider anti-corruption movement. It was sparked by a deadly train station collapse, a canopy collapse, which critics blame on government negligence and widespread corruption. Egypt has reportedly floated a new proposal aimed at restoring the Gaza ceasefire deal. Palestinian health authorities, meanwhile, have said that Israeli strikes killed at least 65 people in the enclave in the previous 24 hours. The proposal made last week, Egypt's proposal rather, follows an escalation in violence after Israel resumed air and ground operations against Hamas militants on the 18th of March, essentially ending a 2-month period of relative calm after 15 long months of war. Israeli settlers have allegedly beaten and detained Hamadan Balal, a Palestinian co-director of the Oscar-winning documentary No Other Land in the Occupied West Bank. Witnesses have said that settlers, accompanied by Israeli soldiers even, stormed his village, with Balal's wife hearing him scream, "I'm dying," before being taken away. Meanwhile, other activists were also attacked, with masked settlers slashing car tires and smashing their windows. The Israeli military claims the incident involved clashes between groups. However, Balal's detention follows rising settler violence among the ongoing Gaza war. US President Donald Trump has said that he will impose tariffs of 25% on any nation that purchases oil from Venezuela. Now, Trump has claimed, without evidence of course, Venezuela has purposefully and deceitfully sent criminals, including violent individuals and members of gangs, to the United States. Over in India, we can expect more oil coming in from Venezuela. Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas Hardeep Singh Puri, at a press conference on the sidelines of the India Energy Week 2025, had recently and very clearly, in fact, stated that India can expect more oil coming from Venezuela. He added that our public and private companies have had business relationship with Venezuela, but there were some payment issues. However, Puri said he is looking at it with great optimism. A US team led by Assistant Trade Representative Brendan Lynch will be in New Delhi for trade discussions with Indian counterparts a little more than a week before President Donald Trump's April 2 deadline for imposing reciprocal tariffs on New Delhi. Meanwhile, ahead of the April 2 deadline, the government proposed to remove the 6% equalization levy, or EL as it's called, through an amendment in the Finance Bill 2025, which is one of the demands, in fact, put forth by the Washington. Trump's threat of imposing reciprocal tariffs from April 2nd have given rise to fears, in fact, of an escalating trade war around the world, including India. US Postmaster General Louis DeJoy has stepped down effective immediately after nearly 5 years of leading the financially troubled Postal Service. Now, DeJoy, a major Republican donor appointed in 2020, secured a whopping $50 billion from Congress for reconstructing, but faced criticism over mail delays and workforce cuts. He recently sought reform advice from Elon Musk's efficiency team and had even planned a leadership transition. Deputy Postmaster General Doug Tolino will now head USPS temporarily. Meanwhile, DeJoy's resignation comes amid discussions about privatization and a possible change to the agency's future under the Trump 2.0 administration. And there's certainly good news for Indians. Indian astronaut designate, or Gaganyatri, is going to the International Space Station, or the ISS. Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, an IAF test pilot, will fly to the ISS in the next few months on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket and Crew Dragon from USA. NDTV science editor Pallava Bagla, in fact, spoke to Dr. V. Narayanan. He's the chairman of ISRO, to understand how in fact, the NASA ISRO Axiom 4 mission is progressing. Listen in.
I have with me Dr. V. Narayanan, the chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization. Dr. Narayanan, thanks a lot. How is the mission for Axiom 4, where Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla is likely to go into space?
This will bring lot of expertise, knowledge, advantage, working with the other astronauts, carrying out a couple of experiments. This will bring lot of advantage. That is why Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji approved that entire program. And right now, the training part is going on in NASA. And then, of course, we are going to send one of the astronaut to, rather Gaganyatri, to ISS, International Space Station, with the support of course, whatever you told, the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
As ISRO chairman, are you happy with the performance of Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, and will he make a good astronaut to the International Space Station? He has to learn many things which will come handy in Gaganyaan.
No, I am extremely happy. You know, our ISRO is a teamwork. And our Gaganyatri, I will put, he is doing extremely well. That is what is my understanding. And these are all exceptional people with great devotion and single-minded devotion they are having. And he is doing extraordinarily well.
Wildfires have hit at least 2 areas in western Japan, damaging a number of homes and forcing dozens of residents to in fact evacuate as hundreds of firefighters battle the widening blaze in the mountains. The Iwahari city in Ehime prefecture, large trees were ablaze on a hillside as a helicopter was seen dropping water on the fire. The visuals on your screens. In fact, in the western city of Okayama, the fire broke out Sunday afternoon and has since damaged 5 homes, and several hundred residents in the affected districts were advised to evacuate. It's time we slip into a short break. A lot more on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Over in the US, the FBI is investigating a rise in violent activity directed at Elon Musk's Tesla, calling it an act of domestic terrorism. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed the probe and said that the Bureau has in fact intensified its crackdown on such incidents in recent days. While details on the specific threats remain unclear, Tesla has faced increasing scrutiny and backlash amid ongoing political and industry tensions as well. Patel vowed that those responsible would be caught and brought to justice. Airbus is in discussions with European nations for new defense and space contracts as the continent ramps up military spending. The company's defense chief highlighted growing interest in space assets, including alternatives to Elon Musk's Starlink, as well as increased demand for aerospace capabilities like strategic airlift. Meanwhile, the company's commercial chief warned that trade tensions and potential tariffs could also impact the aerospace industry, though it's still too early to assess the full impact. China's Commerce Minister has welcomed Apple CEO Tim Cook to expand investment in the country amid ongoing trade tensions with Washington. According to an official statement, the two discussed Apple's business in China and broader economic relations as well. Cook was in Beijing for the China Development Forum, where global business leaders are meeting, with some expected to hold talks with President Xi Jinping later this week. Now, Apple remains a key player in China despite increasing regulatory and geopolitical pressures. Hyundai Motor Group has unveiled a massive $21 billion investment in the US, with President Donald Trump announcing the deal at the White House. Now, the investment includes a $5.8 billion steel plant in Louisiana, set to create over 1,400 jobs and supply Hyundai's auto factories in Alabama and Georgia both. Additionally, Hyundai also plans to invest $9 billion to boost vehicle production and another $6 billion in partnerships for AI, robotics and autonomous driving as well. The announcement comes ahead of the opening of Hyundai's new $7.59 billion car and battery plant in Georgia. Chinese tech giant Xiaomi has raised $5.5 billion in an upsized share to scale to accelerate its electric vehicle expansion. The company sold 800 million shares in Hong Kong, offering a 6.6% discount to its latest closing price. Now, Xiaomi is the world's third largest smartphone manufacturer. For your perspective, it entered the EV market last year with the launch of its SU7 or SU7 sedan. The funds will go towards research, technology development and business growth as Xiaomi pushes deeper into the competitive EV industry. Indian cricketing legend MS Dhoni remains tight-lipped about the message he sent when Virat Kohli stepped down as India's Test captain. In an interview, Dhoni said that maintaining trust is key as players confide in him about cricket and life. He praised Kohli's hunger for runs and his relentless drive to improve, calling their bond one of deep respect and understanding as well. With both no longer captains, Dhoni said that they now have more time to chat before IPL matches. Speaking of IPL, the Gujarat Titans will face Punjab Kings in an exciting 2025 clash at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on Tuesday. Now, both teams are looking to secure crucial points in the tournament as the competition has only just started heating up. With star players in action and home advantage for Gujarat, fans can expect a thrilling contest under the lights. French tennis star Alize Cornet is making a surprise comeback less than a year after retiring. The 35-year-old, who holds the record for most consecutive Grand Slam appearances in women's tennis, will compete in a second-tier tournament in Spain starting the 31st of March. She has also received a wildcard entry for a clay court event in Rome and will attempt to qualify for the Italian and Madrid Opens. Cornet, now who was once ranked as high as world number 11, has said that she is returning for the love of the competition.